Hey everyone, Duke Nougat 3D here with another mask from my collection. Today I have the South Korean K-1 protective mask. These were designed, or at least produced, by the Samgong, not Samsung, Samgong Corporation, starting from, I believe, the mid to late 1980s, and are still currently being issued to the South Korean military today. They are commonly found in the U.S., distributed through third-party first responder retailers such as ApprovedGasMasks.com and other sites. They typically can be had at around the well over $100 range, unfortunately, but when they are rarely found on the surplus market, they can be had for typically the cheapest I see them is $50, sadly. Are they worth that price? Well, let's get into that debate. But first, more on the history. These masks seem to be South Korea's first proprietary owned design, because the South Koreans have a long history of copying U.S. designs, or Western designs in general, but particularly U.S. designs. Out of every country in the world, South Korea has the most U.S. mask copies, such as the K-2 mask, which is a M40 clone, the KM25 and KM24 masks, which are copies, obviously, of the M25 and M24 aircrew masks, tank and aircrew masks, respectively. They also have a very loose copy of the M50 called the XK50. They have an infamous M9A1 copy called the KM9A1. And as far as I know, no other countries have copied the K-1 design, but the only other country besides South Korea that uses it is Argentina as their main protective mask. My set is completely new and unissued and is in very good condition. However, there are a lot of things you'll need to consider about the design before you be wanting to buy one for protection. There are a lot of things wrong with this mask that I think a lot of people left go unspoken. But before we get onto that, let's get onto the contents of the kit itself. The carrier here is kind of your typical affair. Right off the bat, it looks like a very nice nylon carrier, but once you're actually holding it in your hands, it feels very cheap. The nylon is very easy to tear and get scratched. As you can see on the corner right here, it is quite marred, and this carrier is not really seeing any use. This is brand new. There's scratching here from just the hardware of the carrier. So very, very cheap material. You have I assume some sort of Korean defense logo. You have K-1 and the date of manufacture, 1992, and the rest of this stuff is moon runes, so I cannot fucking read it. It is quite similarly patterned off of the M40 and M17 style carriers. However, just very, very few differences between them. The back pocket here has is for a decon kit of some sort, but I do not know what decon kits the South Koreans use. I'm assuming some sort of M25-8A1 copy, but again, not sure. Like the M17's M15 series carriers, it does have a pocket up here for storing the shoulder and or waist strap when not in use. Like the early M17 carriers, there's a pocket down here for storing the leg/waist strap when not in use. I'm not going to go pulling that out. There is no panel on the side here for Alice clips for attaching to a pistol belt, unlike the early M17 carriers. The hardware is overall decent. It is made of a very decent metal. The coating is not the greatest. It's very prone to being scratched off, it seems. Not that good of quality. Just everything about the carrier is kind of subpar quality. It opens with 2 lifted dots and a singular snap in the center, which kind of is a pain in the butt, and I don't bother with it typically, but it's there, so. Inside the carrier, you can see it has a very light waterproofing layer. It's slightly rubberized on the inside. You see another label right here, which unfortunately I cannot read. I don't know what that says. Again, it's in Korean. You have let me move the mask out of the way for a sec here. You have a pocket on the side here, similar to the MCU-2P carrier. It kind of reminds me of. In here, you have the pocket for the waterproofing kit, or not the waterproofing kit, the anti-fogging kit, if you can see that. Then there are 2 separate pockets right there for the manual and factory bag is what I keep in there. Up here you have a pocket with 2 little slots in there actually, no, scratch that, 3 slots for nerve agent antidote pens, I assume. You have another pocket back here. I'm not sure what you're supposed to keep in that one, but it's there. And then obviously the one on the very bottom with the cross strap above it is for the waterproofing kit and other accessories. Unfortunately, I do not have the drinking tube for this mask. It is very similar to an Israeli drinking tube. Just keep that in mind. It's basically an Israeli tube, but without the valve in the middle of it. The thing you pinch to let the water flow through. Here we have the factory bag that the mask comes in. I always keep it with it because, you know, it's part of the kit. So nothing really too simple. I mean, nothing too complicated about that. Just a cheap plastic bag with a K-1 on it. You have the manual leaflet, again in Korean. You can also see a illustration of a KM25 next to the K-1 illustration here, which is kind of interesting. It shows you, but I assume it's just telling you all the details of how to use the mask and the carrier. This diagram here is the most interesting because this is actually how you're supposed to clear the mask. We'll get more onto that in a second, but that's like the proper technique for clearing the mask after you put it on. And so, kind of ridiculous. Here is the anti-fogging kit. Basically exactly the same as a US 1980s issue M1 waterproofing kit, like what would come with an M25. Nothing really to say there. You have the waterproofing bag, which is patterned off of a M1 waterproofing bag. The little Ziploc bag that comes with it is very cheap, as you can see it tore right there somehow. Nothing special about this. You have the face form that the mask comes packaged in. Nothing special there either. It has a rubber band to secure the filter. You have the filter, which is a lot of websites describe these as surpassing US NBC requirements. I'm not sure how legit those claims are, but though it's if that's the case, then I guess more power to it. But nothing special here. It's sort of a very loose C2/Israeli M80 combination clone sort of thing. I don't know what to describe it as really, but it's a filter, and it's 40 millimeter. You have the hood for the mask, which is very interesting. It's patterned off of the M17 series M6 hood. However, the openings are all elasticated, and they are proprietarily designed for the fittings of the K-1 mask itself. It has a plastic rectangular neck drawstring slider, similar to what you would see on a tap hood. You have the underarm straps here. Pretty much everything is built like an M6 hood, but, you know, different materials, different colors. Hood's overall decent quality. Then you have this silk tag on the inside of the hood. Again, can't read it. Got a date of 1992, made for a K-1, obviously. And then here's the inside. Nothing special to see. And now let's move on to the mask itself. This is where I'm going to start getting a bit critical of the design. The mask is, like I said, one of South Korea's first proprietary original designs. However, it does seem to take a lot of aspects from other masks. For instance, the drinking tube on the side seems to be a copy of the Israeli type. The front voice emitter outlet combination assembly seems to be a throwback to the Canadian C3 and British light anti-gas respirator designs. The eyepieces are shaped like a Japanese Type 1 or Type 2 mask. It has a harness similar to that of the C8, like an M9A1 has. And I say M9A1 and not M17 because it has the nape strap with the lift-a-dot, like an M9. And aside from that, it's pretty much its own design. It is made out of a very stiff and uncomfortable black high-car rubber. I assume it's high-car, not butyl, because butyl is typically very flexible and soft to the touch, whereas this is very stiff and very plastic feeling. These masks are designed for Korean faces only, and so if you have, if you don't have an Asiatic facial structure, this will probably not be very comfortable for you. I've literally only I only know one person, Grindcore's God here on YouTube, otherwise known as Don or Die. He has one. He's like the only person I know who says his K-1 is comfortable on him. Nobody else that I've talked to agrees that these masks are comfortable. It has a single 40mm port on the side here. Can accept either NATO Stanek 40mm or Russian Gost 40mm. It uses the older rivet style buckle system like on an M9A1 or any earlier US World War II mask. The metal on the components on the mask are decent, I guess. Everything still feels kind of loose and somewhat unfinished in areas, but it's still a sturdy mask overall. The drinking tube is probably the worst design of the mask. You really should not be using an Israeli-style tube on a military mask. These are very awkward to put the tube on. They lead to possible undue chemical contamination on surfaces with the time you're trying to get the tube installed. And look, I'm even fumbling with the cap. I can't even get this goddamn cap back on because of how retardedly complicated, not complicated, but just poorly designed these drinking systems are. These threads, these are the worst threads on any drinking system or anything ever. I cannot get this back on, so you know what? Screw it. Just for that, I'm going to leave it off. I can't even deal with that right now. This is already taking a severely bad turn. You see a marking up here. It's a size medium stamp. There really are no other markings on this mask aside from the medium stamp on the top there, which is kind of interesting. You have a little factory tag that comes on the temple strap here. That's pretty typical to see for unissued examples. The harness elastic seems to be pretty competent. I don't really see it. It's very thick and rugged. The head pad is very cheap nylon, so there's that issue. I will take this off the head and I'll show you the inside, and then we can finish up the video for you guys. In the meantime, I'll try to get that drinking tube back on properly. So if you just give me a minute here. There we go. So yeah, this is probably my most uncomfortable mask in my collection, I gotta say, and it looks promising. I don't doubt that it's a very good protective mask when it's properly fitted, used, and it's with someone who can actually fit this damn thing, but otherwise, I don't really like it as a design. It's very, very just... a lot of aspects about the design that are just, you know, should have been left in the past, especially for a 1980s mask. Here's the inside, and this is where we're going to see some more problems. This is the inlet valve right here. It's completely exposed. There's no covering on it whatsoever. Dirt can easily get lodged underneath there and cause a leak, but if you have a filter properly installed, that shouldn't be too big of an issue, but still, why are you not covering that properly? You got a little bit of a lip there going on the bottom, but that's not that much. The ear or nasal cup is kind of funny because it only has one valve on the side. Nothing elsewhere, just one valve. There's the drinking tube, which is way too far away from your mouth and is very cheap looking and just very poorly rendered. You can see the outlet / voice emitter plate obviously throughout the back there, and this is probably the weakest point of the mask. I don't know if I can do it now, but yeah, there was like a point where I could literally rotate this with my thumb, and it was just, yeah, for a while it felt very loose and not very sturdy. Obviously, there's no double-folded periphery seal, being that this mask has a riveted harness, and that's really not a feature you want on a modern mask. So, and I'm honestly surprised that the South Koreans are still using this mask, just being so outdated in a lot of its design qualities, and it's just overall a very just, I don't want to say it's a terrible mask, but if I had to choose between this and a Serbian M2, I would definitely go for the Serbian M2, even despite the lack of voice emitter and drinking system. The Serbian M2 is not going to give me the same issues as a K-1, but anyhow, there you have it. That's the K-1. Extremely shitty in design and construction, but overall a nice mask to have in your collection, I guess. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to drop any comments or information or questions you may have relating to this mask, as always. I'll try to get to them when I can. I hope you enjoyed. I'm Duke Nugget 3D, and I'll see you all later.